Welcome to BizTech's APAC Cyber Security show. Every week, we update the region on the latest threats and incidences to help you better protect yourselves. Today, we have a special guest on our show today. He is Nathan Wenzler. He's the Chief Security Strategist at Tenable. Now, founded in 2002, Tenable is an exposure management company where approximately 40,000 organizations around the world rely on its expertise to understand and reduce cyber risk. Now, today, Tenable's customers include approximately 60% of the Fortune 500 companies and 40% of the Global 2000. Now, with that, Nathan, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Brian. I appreciate you having some time for me today.
Now, Nathan, for over the past week, there's been a lot of news about the Clop Ransomware group, which claims to have stolen data from hundreds of MOVEit transfer users and their customers. Could you start by telling the audience about this group and what it's notoriously known for?
Sure. So Clop is a relatively new ransomware group. Came into the scene about 2019, but they are incredibly well organized and have actually managed to spread their reach very broadly across the globe and become one of the more successful ransomware and data extortion criminal organizations in the world. So it's not a surprise that they're back in the news again. They've hit a number of organizations over the last few years, and this is just yet another one where they've made some inroads for very, very critical data.
Could you give us some examples of some of the attacks that they've been responsible with in the past and some of the organizations that have been affected?
Well, yes, we have a lot of suspicions in terms of what they've been up to. They primarily been hitting targets, as you might suspect, where big financial organizations are and other very wealthy companies. You see like the United States, the United Kingdom, Germany's are very common targets, but we're seeing increases in Asia and Australia. There's a lot of uptick and sort of spread in the types of attacks that they are leveraging against organizations, mainly because they're really effective, which makes it kind of difficult to slow them down. But in terms of the types of companies, I mean, we've seen British Airways had a reported ransomware incident from them, BBC, a few others over the years. And they've also been a group that has come up with attacks on other types of software, including other file transfer tools. So it's kind of an area of their expertise as well to go after folks who have those sorts of transfer tools.
Okay, so Nathan, now we've got to talk about the one that's really the hot potato right now. It's the MOVEit vulnerability. Now, they have given victims a deadline of June 14, which is tomorrow, to pay up. And if they don't, obviously, they're going to compromise the personal information. Do you have any updates on this current situation? And what is the scenario if these companies just don't pay up?
Well, those are two really difficult questions, frankly, but we haven't seen an update yet. The group seems to have been pretty stuck on their deadline. They have released supposedly some snippets of the data to prove that they actually were successful in the exfiltration. They claim that they have stripped out government information to law enforcement, but I think we have to be suspicious of that to some extent. I mean, they have the data. What they do with it is yet to be seen. So nothing has really changed so far. Tomorrow is going to be the tell because that is the deadline. I think what will be more important to pay attention to is what happens in the next week or so, because we've seen a lot more of instances of double extortion happening, where it simply isn't just a matter of we're going to encrypt your data, lock it out, and then you have to pay us to free it.
Okay.
Now, a lot of these groups, Clop included, are doing that, and then they are also exfiltrating the data so that they also can have possession of a copy of it. So you pay once to unlock what you have on your premises, and then you end up having to pay a second time to make sure they don't release that information to the public. So the deadline right now, tomorrow. We'll see what they end up doing with it, but there may be some more to come in the next week if they decide to do an extra extortion. In terms of what's going to happen with the companies involved, it's a really difficult business decision. Anyone who's in that situation of ransomware, there's no right answer to this question. I wish I had a simple silver bullet for everyone here, but it's a really difficult business decision. You have to look at the risk of what happens if that data is out to the public. What will happen to your business? Is it a reputational problem? Do you have backups? Do you have a method to recover? There's a lot of questions that are involved from a business and a risk perspective that an organization has to go through. What everyone's going to do right now, we're going to have to find out tomorrow, basically.
Nathan, one of the key challenges is this is really a stark reminder of the need, really. And again, we're having an APAC focus on this show, really about APAC businesses having to protect themselves better by safeguarding their systems and data against ransomware attacks. If I'm a business leader of a large organization, what are some of the key things I need to do to protect myself?
Well, I'll tell you, I've worked with a lot of companies all over the globe, and I think what we're seeing happening everywhere, including in Asia, is a major shift in how we focus on our security programs. I think historically we've relied on very reactive technologies, right? Endpoint security and firewalls and very traditional IT security things. But the way that these criminal organizations work today, they are too organized, they're very talented, and they can work at scale. I mean, the cloud is not just for all of us. The cloud is for them too, and they can launch massive attacks very easily. So this idea that we sit and wait for it to happen and just hope that our defenses are strong enough to protect us is going away. It just doesn't work and it doesn't scale anymore. So this movement now in the industry is to see a more proactive approach. It's really to start to understand what is the state of security in my environment. It's a lot of work you have to do ahead of time, right? You have to do assessments, you have to do business analysis, you have to understand where your critical data is stored, where your critical systems. It's a lot of work up front, but it's the only way we start to understand where we are at risk and then start to do the things we need to do to protect ourselves. That's remediate, that's write better code, that's put into stronger security controls. And all of that has to be aligned with the business itself. So it's a major change in mindset, really, of moving away from that reactive world and into something more proactive. That's where we have to live. It may not stop everything, but if we can get to that proactive place, we will absolutely reduce the number of these incidents that take place. Less cost, less impact, less damage to these organizations. It's the only path forward for us.
Now, Nathan, it's been a great conversation with you, but before we leave, 3 key takeaways for any business owner from a cybersecurity perspective.
First and foremost, you've got to have a response and recovery plan. So ransomware has made it very clear to all of us that we need to have ways to deal with these kinds of situations. So have a plan, make sure that you know how to get your data back, have assistance on retainer if necessary, be prepared to deal with the legal and HR and sort of public relations aspects of it. These are all things that will factor in, and you want to be prepared for that as early in the process as possible. I'll stress secondarily, the proactive approach. The more you understand about the state of security in your environment, the more equipped you are to make better decisions to protect the business and reduce risk. It's so critical. And lastly, communicate. I'm a big advocate. This is something we don't do well in security in general, but we need to make sure we're communicating to the business that we've identified what risks are present, what it could impact us, how much it could cost the business. Cybersecurity is a risk management function in any organization. It's not an IT function. And so we have to start communicating like we are part of that risk management effort so the business can understand the risks, whether that's financial or cyber, and make better decisions about protecting their interests. It's really key.
Nathan, thank you very much. That was great advice, and thanks for coming on the show.
Appreciate the time today. Thanks for having me.
Now, that's it for this week's APAC Cyber Security Show. We've been speaking to Nathan Wenzler. He's the Chief Security Strategist at Tenable on BizTech's APAC Cyber Security Show. I'm Brian Fernandez, and you've been watching and listening to us. You can check us out at www.biztech.asia, as well as our syndication partners, TV stations, radio stations, and websites. Thanks for tuning in.